It has been 3 weeks since I purchased my plot of land here in Beecher's Hope. The bank took a while to get the paper and documents correct and finished, but today is the day I can finally break ground. I noticed I am not the only one here in this new neighborhood wishing to start a new life. I have a few neighbors already, with a set of brothers from down south standing out most. Their thick accents can be heard from down the street, with them sometimes laughing, sometimes arguing. I came here to find some peace and quiet in Beecher's Hope, and to hopefully get my business of being a handyman down here started. Back in New York, the city was already flooded with handymen, so finding decent work was hard to come by. Usually the jobs were small and quick and not enough for me to make a comfortable living. I needed somewhere with underdeveloped land that my community would insist and need someone like me to be a part of. A few weeks have gone by and the foundation is completed as well as the support beams. I have been trying my best to help my neighbors around, not without charging a fee of course, with whatever help they may need. Some neighbors are further along than I am, as I have been putting off working on my own house to help others with mostly their plumbing and electrical wiring. It is pretty wild with how many of my neighbors are willing to build their houses with little to no knowledge of how to do so. Across the street, I've begun to notice that the brothers, as mentioned before, are all taking each own's route and building them individually and different. When I saw the difference, and I do not mean a different floor plan, a bigger backyard, a pool, different color schemes, different art styles, no. I mean it looks like a child, a teenager, and finally an adult with carpentry skills all took different approaches. I have many times tried to go over to give advice to the brothers on their approach, but only one, Charles, seems to want to listen to my advice. Charles and I have started to grow close with each other as he is now assisting me in helping me build my own house. It is incredible how much he listened and retained the information I was teaching him on how to build a correct and long-lasting house. He has been extremely patient with me in the process, and it shows by the lustrous and sturdy house he built. Now that it is time to focus on my house, I am no longer having to teach him so much. Our conversations have become more friendly and relaxing. Charles loves telling me stories of him and his brothers back in the South, as I am so intrigued by their lifestyle. Being a Yankee from New York, our worlds and thought process are so different due to our upbringing, but I enjoy listening to his perspective. Recently, Charles has started to bring up some concern over his brothers and their lifestyle. Being the only child in his family to start work at the age of 11 back on his uncle's snake farm in the South, he felt like his work ethic was well rooted and non-negotiable for him. His brothers, however, were a little more laxed and most summers and breaks would refuse to work or help out on their uncle's snake farm. Charles often would wake up, complete his duties at the farm, and come back home typically before his brothers even got up to start the day. This would frustrate him at times as he was made responsible for his brothers because he was the one in the family that they could count on. Charles told me he continued living like this right up until the brothers decided to move out of their parents' home down south and start a new life here in Beecher's Hope. Talking to Charles, I could tell his resentment and frustration towards his brothers were growing, especially since they stopped listening to his advice over how to build and structure their house properly. Jake, I tell you what, I just don't know what to do with my brothers. I know they need my help, but they just ain't listening to me. I reckon they'd heed my warnings and still want my advice. But by golly, they just hit a new low of lollygagging, Charles confided in me. With his thick southern accent, I slowly translated his words into, "My brothers are lazy." This I can also confirm, because neither of the two would listen to my expertise advice on how to build a house, rather taking cheap shortcuts. I gave them the blueprints. I even gave them the correct material, and their brother even chimed in to help. However, they both were occupied on just getting their house built and finished as fast as they could and send their parents a letter as if to say, "I finally made it as an adult." The weekend came and it was time to relax and take a well-deserved day off of building my own house, as well as working around the neighborhood installing housing necessities. My garage was finally done, so I decided to invite Charles over for some catching up. I walked over with a big smile of accomplishment, because the past few weekends we had been hanging out in Charles' garage waiting until I finished mine. I knocked on his door and went the door opened, I noticed all three brothers were over and all looked confused. Charles looked at me and quickly asked if I knew our neighbor down the street, Jason. I replied back, "Of course! I helped him install all of his plumbing and even washed his pet fish a couple weeks ago." "Well, he just gone up and threatened to blow down our houses with nothing but a gust of breath from his lungs," Charles quipped. I noticed my brothers laughing at the notion that someone could blow down a house with their own breath. Charles did not chuckle, but rather had a face of concern. He told his brothers they should look into reinforcing their houses, just in case this was no threat. Charles and I both ran back to my house to get supplies to help his brothers out. Let me mention, this is supposed to be my day off, and this is not relaxing, trying to help out Charles' lazy brothers. Anyways, we got what we thought his brothers could use and ran back out the front door. However, when we approached the brothers' house, we noticed nothing was there. An empty lot in which I could see miles past. The first plot had a pile of straw, and the second had an even bigger pile of sticks. I never shook my head so fast and hard in disapproval. I mean, I saw them build their houses, but I did not notice this level of lethargy to build a house out of sticks or straw. Just as I heard the brothers crying and wanting Charles to fix their problems, as always, Jason came through on a rampage and shouted at him that he's going to go 3 for 3 with blowing houses over. What made Jason want to do this? No one will ever know, but we were not about to try to find out. With haste, the three brothers and I headed into Charles' house just seconds before Jason came to the front door. He then recited one of the weirdest phrases and sounded like a cult chant, exclaiming, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." All of a sudden, one of Charles' brothers shouted back, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." At this point, I thought I was being pranked. Who talks like that? And also, his brother had absolutely no hair on his chin. Did not even need a shave. No hair was growing. Furthermore, with no avail, Jason could not blow down the house, as me and Charles reinforced and made sure it could handle other earthly disasters. Nonetheless, a little breath from Jason. With frustration for some reason now coursing through his veins, Jason was determined to get into the house. The situation turned into one where it felt like we are fighting against zombies trying to break into our fortress during the apocalypse. "Santa's here!" one of Charles' brothers exclaimed as he heard footsteps on the roof of the house. "I ain't think that's Santa. Jason done gone now, lost his mind and fixin' to comin' through the roof, I suppose. Quick, hand me my tea kettle." I grabbed the boiling hot water and gave it to Charles. I guess he read somewhere that in Britain, the fancy royal family drinks tea for breakfast, and he was in the mood to feel a little fancy this morning. Luckily for us, this was a great deterrent as Jason made his way down the chimney like old St. Nick on Christmas Eve. Charles quickly put the hot water in the fireplace, just enough to burn Jason as he was crawling down and have him hightail it out of the chimney and away from the house. After a couple of minutes of calming down, we walked outside and took a look at the destruction. 2 houses in shambles, 2 houses that needed preparing, 2 brothers who need the assurance of a sturdy home. And all I currently see are 2 opportunities to make a huge payday off these 2 folks. "Well, let's get to rebuilding, boys," I shout as I remember it's still supposed to be my day off.